let's do that if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah. Can you email me or Jim Bob?
No. Let's do it. Let's do it right now. Let's just do it right now. So,
okay.
It'll be 10 minutes. It'll be 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Just my battery is at 24%, but I will try to find a place to plug in right now.
All right. Well, 24% ain't that low.
Yeah.
So let's dive into this. My first question to you is, let's see if we can first let's see if we can untangle two concepts, and then I'll ask my first question. Concept one is a product of the mind, which is not real. That's concept one. And then a reality or truth of the matter, which is concept two. Would you agree with me that if I claimed that I was the king of France, that could be true in my head, but would you say that would be true in reality?
Yeah, obviously not.
Okay, what would make it not true in reality?
You don't have any of the defining necessary criteria that would be sufficient to make you the king of France.
That seems totally reasonable to me. And so, like, what are some of those characteristics that would make me the king of France? What would that entail?
I don't know. I assume that there's some kind of official paperwork involved.
Well, and probably I give orders and people follow the orders, and I'm in charge of the country and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, if I were to make the claim that I was a female, would the fact of the matter reflect that I was a female?
Is there any biological information about you?
Yeah, I'm XY chromosome. I have gonads. I'm by all biological metrics a male. So if I claim that I was a female,
biological metrics, if by all biological metrics, then you're a male. Then if you say you're a female, then that would not be true.
Okay, so then I just have to ask this one question. If I claimed I was a woman and what woman meant was adult female, what would make that statement true?
What do you mean? What would make that statement true? Like,
what would make the statement true?
And woman was referring to female sex.
Yeah, it was referring to adult female. What would make that statement true?
Your primary sex characteristics matching those of female.
Okay, so as a male, if I say that I am a woman, by my definition, that would be a false statement, correct?
If you're defining woman as sex instead of gender, then yes.
Yes. Okay. So gender, you agree with me, is a construction of the mind, right? Does not exist in material reality. It exists as a construction of the mind.
I'm not sure how long you've been listening to this conversation. We've been going on for a while, but I am a physicalist. I do think that there is a physical activity going on for most mental activities, thoughts, concepts, that kind of stuff.
Oh, sure. It did, but in the same way that if I said I was the king of France, you've already agreed with me that could not be true in material reality. So you can. So hang on, in my mind. I want to make sure we can agree on this quick point.
I think we can.
I want to make sure we can clarify. Okay.
Let me clarify. Your brain can generate the false identity that you're the king of France. And your brain can also generate your gender identity. All of us have.
Yeah. Right. But what would make that? But what would make that true? What would make that true, though?
What would make it true? Your gender.
What would make the gender identity? If you say I'm a woman, right? If you say in reality you can in your mind be the king of France, which I don't disagree with, but in material reality you cannot be because it doesn't match the criteria for what the king of France is. Then utilizing the same logic. Why is it that if I claim that my gender is X and I am the real X thing, why would that be true?
Yeah. No, I got what you're asking. So I think that you can be, if you make a statement, I'm male, I'm female, you're making a statement about your sex, that statement can be true or false. But if you're making a statement about your gender identity and you're not lying about it, you're genuinely saying the genuine product of your brain, I don't think that statement can be true or false, because it's like saying, like, you know,
well, then how come the King of France? Then how come the King of wait? Then why can the King of France statement be true or false?
Because the King of France designation is not a social designation based on.
It's totally a social designation based.
It's not.
Yes, it's a complete social designation based on identity. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When you don't let me finish my sentence.
Okay, let him finish. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Bro, I didn't cut you off. I just clarified.
Not
go ahead.
France simply because you declare that you are the King of France. That's not how that identity works. That identity has to be bestowed upon you by the proper authorities, right?
No, you can take it. No, you can take it. You can just take that identity.
Take
like
what?
you can just strong arm France and become the King of France. Like, it doesn't have to be bestowed upon you. People can even disagree with you, so right? They can even say that you're not.
Come on, you're resorting to absurdity now. You're saying if you have wait. Can
you explain? Wait, why would that be absurd? We're talking about identity.
Come on.
Come on, it's not an argument. No, I don't.
Hold on, BPF. Hold on, Grayson. Can you tell us how it's logically absurd, not just that you think it's weird?
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
Okay,
I don't understand.
Okay.
Like
can you tell us how it's Can you tell us how it's logically? Can you tell us how it's logically absurd?
Let's not be pedantic. I'm being colloquial.
No, that's what absurd means in a debate. That's what. Okay, I'm just clarifying.
Hang on. We can move past it. Okay. The thing is that
colloquial.
If we're talking about
my balls about every little.
No problem. But if we're talking about the idea of the mind,
absurd about it. Why I think it's absurd is because we're talking about what makes you the King of France, and I'm saying it's not based on your own self-identity. And your comeback to that was like, well, sure, like if you feel like the King of France and you have an army of 6 million people at your disposal, you can make yourself the King of France. Sure, but again, what made you the King of France is not your self-identity. What made you the King of France was that you took it by conquest. So it was
bestowed on you,
that
right?
Your own self-identity makes you the King of France. But it is
or
the
it was bestowed.
And like,
hang on.
Definitionally,
bro, 1 point at a time.
1 point at a time. 1 point.
Just let's stay with this.
All right.
Okay. Is it so? If it's bestowed upon you, this means other people recognize you as this thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what happens? So what happens? Yeah. So what happens if those people?
Andrew, say that again. You cut out. Andrew, say it again.
Anyway, what happens? Yeah. What happens if people do not recognize you as being this thing? Are you that thing? Are you the King of France if people don't recognize you as the King of France, regardless of your self-identity of believing you're the King of France?
So it depends on the nature of the category in question. For the King of France, no, but for gender, yes. Just like for your favorite music or whatever. If I consider myself a fan, if I consider myself a fan of the band Gorillaz, but I've never been to their concerts, I've never bought their albums or whatever, but I consider myself a Gorillaz fan. And you say, well, like, you know, how can I know that you're really a Gorillaz fan if you don't have any receipts, you never bought any of their music or whatever? But it's an identity of mine. It's not that other people can tell me I'm not a Gorillaz fan. It's your own self-identity that is sufficient to categorize you as a fan of a certain musician or band.
So what would fair enough. So what would make you a Gorillaz fan?
If I consider myself one, even if I listen to all their music or I don't. If I consider myself a Gorillaz fan, then I am.
Sure. So how would you consider somebody else to be a Gorillaz fan?
Basically, like, you could try to gatekeep it and say you're not a real Gorillaz fan if you haven't done X, Y, and Z, or you could just take them at their word if they tell you.
Yeah, but what would actually make them a Gorillaz fan is my question. Yeah, I mean, you're trying to convey something there definitionally with fan, right? So there's something entailed there. There's some activities or something that they must be doing. Like, for instance, if I said I was a fan,
I wouldn't even say so, because, like,
for example, like, does it even make sense if I were to say to you?
Let me just give one quick one. Andrew, you could give your example, but let me give one quick one first.
Yeah.
There could even be a fan that says, you know, I like really, really hate Gorillaz music. You know, I really hate even listening to it, but I'm still a fan. I still am looking forward to what their next album could be. Like, you know, that you could even hate the music and still consider yourself a fan. And it would be valid.
If I were to say that I was a Stephen King fan, but never read a single Stephen King book, never listened to a single thing he said, never watched a single movie, and somebody else called me a liar, Would you agree with him?
I would say you're a weird fan, but if you're a Stephen King's fan just based off vibes alone, sure, that's valid, dude. Whatever. I wouldn't really care. You know, I'm not going to gatekeep you whether or not you're a fan.
Yeah, but what would make the person? What would make them the person calling them a liar wrong?
If the other person does consider themselves to be a fan of Stephen King?
Yeah. What would make them wrong?
Okay, so it sounds like you've just been basically defeated by analogy at this point.
What would make them wrong?
I just told you, if the other person doesn't identify as a fan of Stephen King, then they
No. That's not my question. My question was
no. That doesn't agree with your fucking.
The person who calls them a liar. What makes them wrong?
Yeah. I'm sorry, you might have cut off at the end. You said the person that
who calls them a liar. So if I'm a Stephen King fan, I read all the books, I watch all the movies, all this. Somebody else does none of that, calls themselves a Stephen King fan, I call them a liar. What makes my statement that they're a liar untrue?
The fact that the other person identifies as a Stephen King fan.
Okay, well then the fact that the other person identifies as the King of France.
Andrew, let me explain this. You said I was going to have time to explain. The criteria that is sufficient to categorize somebody as a fan of Stephen King is whether or not they identify as a fan of Stephen King. That's the only necessary criteria.
Why is that the only necessary criteria?
That's just definitionally what makes you a fan of something is whether.
No. Okay. Well, then show me the definition which states that.
All right, man. I'll go hunt down a dictionary for the word fan over here. 15%.
Well, I mean, what does fan convey? Doesn't it? Aren't you trying to equate some information there?
Sure, but as I already pointed out, you can even hate the music and still consider yourself to be a fan of them.
Yeah, but don't we falsify claims by if the claim doesn't reach the threshold for the criteria of the thing we're pointing to, then the claim is false. Yep. So if fan is indicating, stop, bro! I just let you go. Stop talking, bro.
Let him go, Grayson.
My turn. I just got done explaining this to you, but I'm going to do it again. So if that's the way that you falsify a claim, okay, if fan just means anybody who identifies as a fan, then how can fan mean anything? Because I can just identify as being a fan of whatever. And anybody can identify as, well, you can almost make any claim as just a form of self-ID, and then it becomes unfalsifiable. So, for instance, you could never say somebody was a fake Christian. You could never say that somebody was a fake Satan worshiper. How could you ever do that? It becomes circular.
Oh no! Oh, boo-hoo! I took away your ability to gatekeep other people's identities. Oh no!
No. You took away the ability for words to mean stuff.
Wait! Wait! I'll let you go here. It is arbitrary what people are fans of. Because people say fans of stupid stuff all the time. I'm a fan of mustard. I'm a fan of this door handle. Whatever. Like, yeah, that's all true. They can.
Yeah, but what are they conveying there? But they're conveying something there.
Yeah, it means that they probably like those things, but even if they dislike them, they can still consider them a fan.
Right, but how could you be a fan?
It's an arbitrary categorization.
Well, okay, then how could you be a fan of the taste of mustard if you've never tasted mustard?
I don't know. Maybe you could be a fan of how it's described.
You don't know? You don't know how you could be a fan of mustard if you've never tasted mustard.
13% battery left. Is this really how you spend the conversation?
Okay, Andrew, I want to...
an analogy, and you're asking me about mustard.
Grayson, hold on, let's go back to the question that I think is really important here. Is Andrew asked, how could you say the person who says, no, you're not a fan, how could they be lying, right? Because your distinction here is that there is no real distinction of a fan. So what is the answer again? How do you know? How could you say the person's lying when they say no, you're not a fan? How do you know they're wrong?
They are wrong if they say the other person's not a fan. They are wrong if the other person identifies as a fan.
Well, then you have just defeated your entire worldview, and this is what I was getting at, right? So your whole worldview is now destroyed because if all a sports fan is somebody who identifies as being one, that makes everybody a gatekeeper of what one is. So it's impossible to say one person's lying about the other one being a fan because their own definition of whatever it is has to be true. Therefore, if you say you're not a woman, based on my criteria of a woman, there's no fucking way for you to call me a liar.
We can take this one more thing, Grayson. I want to take this into another more immediate scenario. Let's say, because you say you're a male and you're a cis man, right, Grayson? So let's say there is a university that's offering scholarship to women.
Before you start that, can I respond to what Andrew said really quick?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if all of us are making let me give you the argument. Let me give you the argument. I want to make sure
it's funny
that
how my
you get it
response
right.
to Andrew sounds an awful lot like Andrew. Like, isn't that weird?
I just want to make sure you get I just want to make sure you get it right. So I'm just going to repeat it real quick. If the identity of a fan is whatever they claim it is, you cannot call another fan a liar for saying you are not one, because, like you said, it is arbitrary. Correct?
You can still determine whether or not they're lying. There are other physiological, empirical tests about whether or not somebody's lying. Other factors that portray if somebody's telling the truth or not. You can tell if somebody's lying physiologically, biometrically.
But lies are based on intent. If they mean it, if they mean you're not a fan, right? They mean that, then they're not lying. And you can't say that they're lying based on criteria. So what is actually wrong with them saying you're lying? What is wrong with that?
No, ultimately, I do think that, it's shitty to call people out as saying you're not a real fan if they say they are a fan. And I think
that's nice, but what makes them a lie? What makes it a lie?
I think that you shouldn't gatekeep if people are fans. I think that you shouldn't gatekeep people's own gender identity.
That's nice. What makes it a lie? What makes it a lie for one fan to tell another fan they're not a real fan? What makes that a lie?
Because what is the sufficient criteria to designate one as a fan, much similar to gender, is whether or not you identify as a fan.
Yeah, sure, but however you identify as a fan is going to have
over and over again.
Hang on, no, we're not. This is my turn.
Hold on, Grayson.
My turn.
Hold on, Grayson.
It's my turn,
Grayson,
bro.
just engage. Let him
so
talk.
no, this is not correct, because whatever your identity is, self-identity of fans, going to have criteria. If somebody else doesn't meet that criteria, and you say it's arbitrary, so you can make up whatever criteria you want. If I say you're not a fan, how could I be lying? How?
Because the sufficient criteria is whether or not they identify as a fan. We're going in circles because you don't understand the points I'm making.
Well,
you want to ask your question, because now I'm at
that's totally
10% battery.
That's totally incoherent. How the hell does your cell phone in 10 minutes lose 12% battery?
I just want to point out, Grayson.
I don't know, man, because I'm live streaming. I'm in the middle of nowhere, Idaho, right now on a road trip.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I got this clear. You can come up with whatever your definition of fan is, and you are that thing. However, telling somebody else that they're not that thing because they don't meet that definite criteria, you're lying about that. Can you even explain how that's coherent?
Yeah, I just did. I've explained it.
Do it again.
Like,
use
whether
small words.
A fan is a process of their own self-identity as one. So for you to say they're not when they identify as one would make you a liar. You should just
but you identifying as a fan has criteria.
Hey, Andrew, how about just generally you don't gatekeep people's identities? Okay, we can call.
Well, how about we do? Because words mean stuff. So moving back to this though. If I still don't understand. You got to explain it again.
Words do mean stuff, and sex and gender mean two different things.
If you say,
one at a time, Grayson.
Grayson.
Just over talking and spurting. So again, if I identify as a sports fan and because I self-ID as that thing, I am that thing, and my criteria for what makes you one is that you go and buy the fans' merch. If you say that you're a sports fan, but you don't buy the fans' merch, so I say you're not a sports fan, how in the world could I be wrong?
Because I consider myself a sports fan, and that's all that's
only the person who makes the ID claim is the person who's in the right. That's it?
Yep.
So the other criteria then. So there's no possible way you realize this. This is now you're in a logical contradiction. There's no possible way for you to ever make a claim based on self-ID that the other person is lying or is incorrect, even if your self-ID has the standards for what that thing is.
Because Yeah, that's true, because normal, healthy people don't go around telling other people that they are this and that, and don't go around dictating the identities of others. So you shouldn't do that. That's
Those
not
are
normal.
those are all assertions. Those are just assertions. So back to this though.
Okay.
If you self ID as a sports fan, and your claim is that what makes you a sports fan is that you collect memorabilia, and another person does not collect memorabilia, and you say, okay, you're a liar, how could you be wrong if it's based on your self-ID? How?
Well, maybe to their definition, you're not a true fan, but they don't have
And
a right
to your
to
definition, they're
whether
not.
or not you're a fan.
So it's arbitrary.
So neither one could be lying. So then therefore,
Grayson,
hang on. Let me finish this, and then I'm done. I'll hop the call. So then what we've determined here is that there's no way for you to tell me that I'm lying when I say that a person's not a fucking woman, you idiot. I just wanted to let you know that. And with that, I will dip out. Have a wonderful day, you stupid fuck.
Oh, great. I'm glad that the true colors come out. You tried to be nice, but you just had to get a little bit out at the very end. I see how it is. But
Grayson, thanks for entertaining that.
If you think that you've demonstrated something with that, if you think that
I think
Andrew's demonstrated something with that about whether or not you can have a true fan, it just sounds like a no true Scotsman fallacy.
I would say just
identities for them.
Grayson, if it's the case that the standards are both arbitrary for two different people, then you should just bite the bullet and say, well, you can't say there's no way of saying that they're lying. I mean, that's the way to go about it, is just say, if there's two standards that are competing, but they're both arbitrary and created as social constructs, there really is no standard to tell the person who says, no, you're not a fan, to say they're actually lying, because they're not actually lying from their view. That's what Andrew demonstrated.
But
they're not actually lying.
Bob, like two people, like one person accurately stating their gender identity and another person, like, or the same person, like, unaccurately stating it, are going to have recognizably, empirically, verifiably different brain states. You could tell who's lying and who's not if you had a sufficiently sensitive instrument. Right.
Well, that's just appealing to some sort of mystery or ignorance that we don't have the tech for. But let's just say this, Grayson. Someone says someone's a biological man. They're super muscular. They don't wear women's clothing. They don't present as a woman at all. They identify as a woman. Okay? They just declare it so. Now, are you saying that someone like me, right, when I'm walking my daughter in public and she sees what looks like to her as a male who she identifies categorically as a man, dressed in a suit, strong, wide shoulders, has a sports team pin on, all the shit you listed as something that's categorically man oriented. When she says, "Daddy, look at that man," are you saying she's lying?
No, she's just probably mistaken, and understandably so. And if that person like heard that and said, actually, I identify as a woman, then you can, it depends. Like, if you want to respect other people, then you could teach your daughter that and say, look, like, that's how they identify. It's a nice thing to do, to use those pronouns.
If telling my daughter to identify that
nice
man
to other people.
Hold on, no. If I tell my daughter to identify that as a man, but that occurs to her as a lie, why should she do it?
If she wants to be nice and respectful to other people around them.
So people should lie for other people's feelings. So what makes their feelings better than the feelings we get for having to lie? Why is one more valuable than the other, Grayson?
It just depends. It just depends on whether or not you want to raise your daughter to be a conscientious person.
That didn't answer the question. Are they being conscientious of my daughter, forcing her? Hold on, Grayson, listen to me. Stop interrupting me. I asked you a question. Are they being conscientious of what goes on internally for myself and my daughter and people who think like me to force us to lie, right? I'm asking you a question, Grayson. Why is the feelings of the man who's dressed like a man, who's a biological male, saying, call me a woman, what makes their feelings more important than the internal conflict we experience by lying? Tell me what's distinguishable about the other that makes it more valuable that we bend the knee. Tell me.
Look, if you are in such internal anguish at just the thought of properly using,
that's an assertion. It doesn't answer the question.
If that
His phone must have died.
So deep
Where is he?
that it's such
That
a
doesn't
big
answer
issue
the
for you. You know
question.
what? You can have a little special boy, little hall pass, little exemption just for Jim Bob because he feels just too strongly just having to use people's pronouns that they want to be identified as.
Grayson, can you now swap everything you said about me and make it about the trans person who wants me to speak in a certain way? For good faith.
You're the whiny little snowflake.
No.
At the end of the day, you're the one who's being whiny.
Okay, so asking someone to use pronouns and language that doesn't comport with their internal reality framework, that's considered a lie from their ideological and religious standpoint. You're saying they're the whiny babies. I asked you kindly to just restate that, but use it for the other person. Listen, Grayson, I'll tell you how it sounds. Are these people so petty and so weak and their internal structure is so broken that they have to force people, and if they don't affirm their identity that's internalized only, that's grounded in nothing but their own mind, are you saying that they can't live without people affirming their own internal identities?
See, here's the difference, Jim Bob, is that...
What's the difference? I asked for that first.
People like you...
you...
I'm literally going into it. You don't interrupt me. I let you just talk, man. Let me answer here. Because I've only have 4% here. So look, people like you, I'll just make this my conclusion statement here. People like you are actually not undergoing all of this internal suffering at just trying to use pronouns that people identify as. Really? Whereas trans people, there is actual genuine suffering that trans people go through in society. Gender dysphoria is an actual terrible amount of suffering that people go to.
Right.
So if you actually
is gender dysphoria delusion? Is gender dysphoria delusional? Is gender dysphoria? Okay, great.
Pronouns,
Grayson.
And
Grayson, I love your speech.
I love your speech. Or a bigot about it.
I love your speech, but is gender dysphoria a delusion?
Called a bigot and an asshole.
Is gender dysphoria? You're coping. You're coping. Is gender dysphoria a delusion?
Oh, I'm coping.
Is gender dysphoria a delusion?
I don't know, man. It's in the DMSM.
Okay, great.
It actually is a psychological state.
Okay, great.
Trauma.
Are there people who see things, dude? Are there people who see things that don't exist?
Yeah.
Okay, so when someone says there's something over there, now should I affirm that there's something over there, or should I affirm to them that they're just imagining that it's okay? Which one should I do?
It depends on the patient. Sometimes they say that you're supposed to just acknowledge their delusion. Sometimes you can point it out. Sometimes you're supposed to go along with it. It depends on the person, I'm told.
Okay, so in this event,
I don't know, Jim
how do you know?
But honestly, man, I'm at 3% battery right now.
Wait, go till it dies.
Conclusion. Is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, one more question. If it depends on the person, how are we supposed to know whether it's harmful, helpful, or neutral to affirm someone else's internal delusion? From my point of view, teach my kids to affirm something that doesn't comport with their framework or their religious views. How are you supposed to know, depending on the person, when you're supposed to entertain their views or not, right, Grayson?
Well, you could either listen to other people or you could listen to the science, which shows that it does make an impact whenever trans people are validated by the social, people, the relationships around them.
How do you... Dude, that doesn't answer the question. I asked you, how do you know when it doesn't?
I said it.
I asked you, how do you know when it doesn't?
The other person, I said, listen to other people. The other person could tell you.
That's what's in question, dude.
Be respectful of other people around you.
Okay, let's do this one more time.
A controversial statement. Just be respectful of others.
No, you be respectful of me, who doesn't want to affirm something that occurs to me as a lie. You don't respect me, Grayson. You're a hypocrite.
You guys are such little... not a lie.
It is a lie from my internal framework. You even from your physicalist view, Grayson, if everything's reduced to internal frameworks, just like Andrew demonstrated, listen, you can't tell me I'm lying.
I acknowledge
if everything I'm saying is an internal conflict to affirm something that I don't believe in, you're telling me I should.
I agree.
Should I?
I agree that within your moral framework, you might consider that it's a lie. But the thing is that you're incorrect and can be proven and demonstrably so empirically.
No, I can't. No, because it's arbitrary, just like the fan
No, it
example.
can't. Great freaking comeback.
You can't prove to someone's a man or a woman. You can't prove it.
It's in their brains. It's being generated by their brains.
You can't. How do you prove someone's a man or a woman, Grayson? It's a social construct. You can't find a social construct. How do you comport a brain activity with a social construct and say that it's true?
Because it's being generated by the brain. Your concept of gender identity is currently, right now, being generated in your brain, and it can be measured.
What is it comporting with that's real such that you can say it's true out in the world?
Like, it is in the category, like the gender identity currently being generated is of the category of male or woman or in between, or man or woman or in between, or whatever.
I'll
it's the actual nature of that pattern.
Dude, no, the data in the brain is referring to something external in the world you call a social construct, how men and women are expected to behave, dress, wear, how they stand, all this stuff, right? I'm saying, what is it in the external world that you're saying the neurological system is reflecting? If the thing that it's reflecting is a total fiction construct.
Let me explain. So I know you're not going to like this, but please bear with me for just 1 second with it, okay? Because we acknowledge that the thing that made something red versus blue or whatever is the frequency of light, and that's an objective thing or whatever. But the thing that makes the gender identity like man or woman is that it's a slightly different pattern of the circuitry in the brain generating that gender. So it's like the actual characteristic, the physical shape of the pattern is different between a gender identity that's being generated for a man or versus a woman, in the same way that the frequency is different for blue versus red.
Okay, great. So you're saying in the brain there's a physical pattern, and the pattern, you look at it visually and you say that's a man, and you look at another one, it says that's a woman, right? I'm saying, what are you referencing out in the world to know to label that a man or a woman?
Like the social construct in society.
So the brain activity,
you would basically establish a sample size of like known men, known women based on the cultural situation, and that would be your two baselines that you would then compare that brain against.
That's great. So look, I'll give you a little fun example here. Someone goes in, they get their brain activity in America.
My phone is about to die too.
Okay, great. So the person gets their brain activity. The doctor says, you're a man. We looked at the brain activity. In our hypothetical of going to another country, they go to another country. The doctors in that country look at the same exact pattern, and you're saying that it could be not a man in the other country?
Sure, yeah. If the country is different, then the baseline is going to be different. And it could be more similar to the other country's baseline.
Yeah. Okay. So there's no actual standard to refer
things
to.
Are different in different countries. Is this a new thing that you've never come across before? That concepts can have different connotations in different countries.
You have no idea what you have no idea what you just did to your own position. But thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, Grayson. Come back anytime. Okay.
People know that different concepts are different in different countries. Like this is very common. Cool. Anybody that's traveled knows this.
Great. So two doctors, right?
Well, hey, it was a pleasure talking with you, Jim Bob. Real pleasure as always.
Yeah, no problem. What's funny about that view is like how ridiculous it is that from his view, a doctor looks at the brain and says, you're a man. The same female, right, goes to another country. The doctor says, well, you're not an American man. Grayson, his view is so insane that the conclusion is that in another country that doesn't share the same descriptions and attributes, characteristics of men and women, the doctor could actually say, oh, I just looked at your brain activity. It turns out you're an American man. Did you know that? It's like 23andMe, but genders around the world. That's how insane. This is the kind of insanity you need to bite the bullet on to defend these views. Think about that, chat. Think about what he's saying. The doctor looks at your neurological stuff. You're an American man. It's a female. You're an American man. The American female, she goes into another country, gets the same brain test. It's the same pattern. They say, you're not a man here. You're not a man here. But we looked closer. It turns out you are an American male. You're a man. You're an American man. This is how insane. This is insanity. Insanity. $10 from Ultra Void. I think this conversation showed me a near future may already happened. What will be the first Protestant church that will have some identity saying? It could be. It could be. Skeptical Jew, $5.
Bagel.
This guy's weird. There's no research that empirically proves that the difference between normal and brain and trans brain. Well, because there's no standard, Skeptical Jew. I know he's full of it. I don't even press him on it. I just grant him it because the conclusion is so insane. But no, you can't go into a doctor and they tell you the social construct that your brain matter is. Because a social construct is just that. By saying the brain matter is identical to a social construct, yet A doesn't equal A outside in the world if you go to another country. I would ask him, this is the consequence. Again, let this stick with you for whoever tries to use this argument. Based on Grayson's view, the female who identifies as a man in America could go to another country and they could actually look at the brain activity and say that you're an American man. Just think about that. His name is Grayson, but the R is silent. Sincere Hypocrite, $5. Someone can be delusional by saying they are the king of France when they aren't, but you're a bigot when you say a man is a woman. Yeah. Also, I was going to ask him another hypothetical, like if there's a university that's offering only women scholarships to athletes, you can't say a bunch of biological males who say they're women because they wanted just a full season of women's rowing. They want to win. They want to party. Bunch of dudes. By the way, they don't even have to dress up. This is what's so fascinating about the whole Troons thing. Why is it that these people are even dressing and trying to pass as women at all? If women and man is a social construct, you could never say the dude in the suit, muscular dude, short hair, mustache, looks like a man, presents as a man culturally. You couldn't tell me that they're not a woman. So if you're going to accept Troons athletes based on Grayson's notion that you can identify whoever you want with, why they should just start performing and keeping their hair. Don't even try to lower their voice as women. Don't grow your hair out. Keep your mustaches, right? Keep your pecs. Have your shirt off, right? Have your shirt off. Total masculine, total dominant male. A dominant male in reality, from Grayson's perspective, could be a woman. Why are you dressing up as the social norms? That was the other question. Is there anything that's required of you to be a man? Just like the fan. Andrew had a perfect analogy. The fan. It's the same exact thing. Is there anything required of you in reality to state that I am in fact a woman when I'm a biological male? Nothing's required. Why would I be required to dress like a woman to identify as a woman? Shave my arms. Yeah, shave your arms. This is the kind of insanity. Complete insanity. Now, what's really alarming is that you can be ripped apart in such a clear-cut, logical way that demonstrates A doesn't equal A. There's no standard for gender. It's all created. And that last part is really worrisome. That these people expect the dominant culture, right? I asked them that question about dominant culture. If man and woman is a social construct, then it can't be found in the brain. If it's found in the brain, then it's not a social construct. But if it is a social construct, we just happen to live in a Western-based cultural society where our traditions that inform our culture and our social constructions present that male and man is the same, that female and woman is the same. How are you going to tell me we're lying if your own view says it's reduced to cultural norms? They can't. It's insanity. This is why secularism eventually collapses, because it rejects foundational, it rejects universals. It rejects universals. I'm identified as a tax collector, right? He thought the king thing was disanalogous. It's actually not, because that's a social construct. A construct that says, oh, it's this sort of nepotistic view and you're bestowed the kingdom from the bloodline. Well, that's a social construct from their view. In fact, if it was a requirement to be a man to be the king, well, you could identify as a man. as a female and be the king of France. It's insane. What does that one say? Silence. If gender is a social construct, then cis and trans as categories wouldn't be impossible, since they would be there's no objective standard. Sincere hypocrite. It's exactly what the argumentation revealed. That cis and trans, that's not even true, by the way. That's not even true. It really is insane. It's complete insanity. So it's just wild. It's absolutely wild. Anyway, if you like the show, like it, share it. Appreciate all the Bob chats, all the super chats. Thanks a lot for the raid, Andrew, and coming on and adding to the hilarity. Absolute hilarity. Now, I didn't do it, but I wanted to that whole time. I need to get this all out. Oh, man.
I think this bullshit about providing argument is sitting on some bullshit.
Yeah. Well, at least we know there are really great complete defeaters. We all have access to this. We have all the access to the defeaters. Learn them, defeat them out on the interwebs, defeat them in person. These people are asking us to lie. These people are asking us to reject our framework for truth because someone might feel bad that you're not buying into their delusion, right? That's why I asked about people seeing things. How do you know someone sees something over there, right? It's imagined. How do you know whether to affirm it or not? Why should I affirm a delusion? If you're here, hit the like. Ready? Hit the like. Thank you, Alex Jones. Appreciate that. Love your earlier work. BS had a question. Andrew, how do we falsify the Eucharist? A falsification is a scientific claim. BS, that's a category error. Basic level category error. Was that a super chat? Or was it just your own free statement? Was it just a free statement from BS? BS, you said Andrew's confusing ontology, which is what is the state of existence, what exists, what doesn't exist, with epistemology. As I told you, BS Lewis, you can't make an ontological statement without assuming an epistemic statement. Okay? And I asked you if that's true, if you could separate the two. Give me one statement, ontologically, a statement of ontology, that doesn't assume an epistemic standard or some assumption about knowledge. Please tell me. Well, any example will do, by the way. You can't, any example. Anyway, that was exciting. I hope Grayson continues because, as insufferable as the exchange is, it's still better than a lot of them, honestly. I gotta say, Grayson, it's better than most TikTok exchanges. I gotta be honest. Okay. Tiffany says, this free statement identifies as a super chat. Bet you won't answer it. That's funny. Yeah. What's a category error? Dude, do you understand in philosophy, even if they're categories, epistemology, metaphysics, ethics, ontology, that you're never able to pick up one without holding the other? You understand that they're all tangled? So it's not a category error. All you can do is not answer my question. Okay? You can't separate these statements, these categories from each other. Okay? You can't. A statement about what is, an ontological statement about what exists, is definitionally also an epistemic statement. It's a first order statement. Answers in atheism doesn't grasp the nature of a category. You don't understand. You don't have any arguments. I'm confusing epistemology for ontology. As I just said, you can't make an ontological statement without assuming an epistemic statement. A statement about ontology is a claim about knowledge, dude. Now, if it's not, this is simple. If it's not, you can provide an example, as I asked, for a statement about ontology that isn't a statement of epistemology, that you're not assuming some knowledge about something. Okay? That's what I'm saying. Maybe he needs questions. He's used to the public school system. Hey, BS, does ontology require knowledge or assume knowledge before you even make a statement of ontology? I don't know. Does it? Again, this is a problem with atheists in general. They think philosophy, you can separate. You pick up the stick of ontology. You pick up the stick of epistemology. And then don't ask me a question about metaphysics. I'm talking about epistemology. No, you can't separate these things, dude. Dan, 510 member for 17 months. Awesome, Dan. 17 months. Going strong. Thank you for that. This chat represents how long since you took down the Lard King in a debate. That's funny. I hope he debates more. I gave him an idea. So if the bimbo is ever listening in, you need to start doing more debates and also be the moderator. That's what's going to bring in more eyeballs on you, Lard King. You got to take the advice of people who despise you, honestly. You got to take the advice. Dano, your line of questioning showed that his view makes truth an impossibility by his criteria. By the way, this also identifies as a super chat. You can't deny it. Yeah, the first conversation with Based was dense. So, I'm not going to apologize because it's important. But from his view, that last section you saw as he squirreled around because he can't tell you the difference between a referent and a reference from his view, physicalist view. Hit all the buttons again. Nope, just see when I ask you, it's always a category error. Yeah, I guess you're just trolling then. That's the thing. They troll, they say something, and then you expect them to interact with your response to it, and then they don't care. Check the Bob chats. I sent one right after Grayson popped in. Okay, I'll check that. Snaggle. Let's say Snaggle. Snaggle. Let me see, Snaggle. Alrighty. Snaggle says, it's so hilarious that Muslim Lantard, oh, he was the worst, man, couldn't even match any argument from Jay last night, even though he had been running for 4 hours already. Yeah, Jay was tired and grumpy. By the way, shout out to Jay for that, because being 4 hours in, tired and grumpy and emotionally and mentally exhausted, and delivering the what is the Trinity like that. Jay, do you mind if I just study it? Almost like an anthem. I'll just study it. Yeah, Muslims are the worst debaters.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar!